Hi, this is your Swapnil Bhartiya, and we are back with our yearly video prediction series. And today we have with us once again Christopher Robinson, aka Crop, Chief Security Architect at OpenSSF. Crop, it's great to have you on the show.
It's wonderful to be back. Thanks for having me, Swapnil.
It's my pleasure, of course. I will ask you to grab your crystal ball and share your predictions with us. But before that, just give us a brief intro of the foundation and the core problem it is solving as we head into 2026.
Excellent. Yeah, for sure. So I work with the Open Source Security Foundation, Open Source Software Security Foundation. We are a sub-project of the Linux Foundation. And at our core, we are the security subject matter experts across the wide range of LF projects, automotive, space grade Linux, the kernel. We do environmental stuff and public policy work. And our mission is to help improve open source software for all stakeholders, whether you're an upstream maintainer, you're a downstream consumer, or you are like a government entity that wants to understand how this software was built. And again, we're looking to help ideally uplift the security practices across open source projects so that all users around the world can benefit.
Excellent. Now it's time for you to pick your air-gapped crystal ball and share your predictions with us.
Oh, as I gaze into my crystal ball for 2026, I think the first thing we're going to experience is there's going to be some form of either AI-orchestrated data breach or some breach of AI LLM technologies. You can't log on to the internet or look at a news program without some mention of artificial intelligence technologies. And it's a double-edged sword. There's great benefit to organizations to help optimize things, upskill people, but those benefits also apply to the bad guys. And we've seen in 2025 a couple attacks where the attackers were using AI technologies. And I think I fear that in 2026, we're going to see some type of major heartbleed or log4 shell style incident that will involve AI technologies. And it's just the speed with which these tools work. I don't know that defenders will have a hard time kind of keeping pace as it adjusts automatically. The next prediction I have isn't really so much new news. If anyone's been involved in the cybersecurity field, my friends over at Verizon produce a report every year where they analyze all of the public data around data breaches. And I've used this document in my practice for decades. And every year, consistently, the single most cited root cause for all of these big industry breaches, where we're talking about billions of dollars or euros of money lost, has been attributable to the human factor. It's not some sexy or exotic 0-day problem. It's not the AI robot breaking down the door. It is a human, whether through ignorance, they don't know any better, they haven't been trained, they don't have the right tools, or they just make a mistake. And that's been the leading cause of data breaches throughout the last at least decade. And I expect that as we progress this year, that will be a trend that continues. I think 2026 is going to be the year where we see conversation around software bill of materials, SBOMs. I think we're going to shift from the debate and conversation up until this point has been about the creation, when we have a couple different tools and formats with which to do that. And that's generally a solved problem for most organizations. Well, I think 2026, we're going to see the shift of that conversation, now moving more to assurance and then aggregation of these databases. If you work in a large commercial enterprise, whether just as you're some type of service provider, or you're a retailer, or you're a hospital, or you're like a large financial institution where you actually create a lot of software, you have the potential of having quite literally thousands of SBOMs that you need to sift through to get wisdom out of. So again, I think we've solved more or less the problem of how to create it. Well, now we need to focus in on the problem of how to get wisdom, actionable items out of these things. And then also, these systems as we were working on the specifications upstream, the assorted industry groups that were working on this, we didn't really focus on the kind of attestation or assurance about these things. So within software development, it's very common to have a signed package that, on this day, Crobe made this package and it hasn't been tampered with subsequently. Well, we don't have an official channel for that for SBOMs. So again, as you're dealing with these thousands of different data files, you need to understand where you got those from and have they been changed since they were initially issued. So is that actual actionable data? Is it something that you can trust that these entities have given you? And then my last prediction actually stems from our conversation last year, Swapnil. The Cybersecurity Resilience Act is going to continue the global trend of this push for compliance. The CRA's reporting obligations come online in September this year. So if you're a manufacturer or if you're an open source steward, you must report exploited vulnerabilities and cybersecurity breaches to the European Union starting in September. And this is the first of kind of a phased implementation of the CRA requirements, and the actual harder software development lifecycle secure by design requirements come online December 2027. But this year is going to be the year where organizations have to start their reporting. They have to demonstrate they're performing due diligence on their packages using SBOMs and things like that. But the CRA is I won't say phenomenon, but it definitely has started a trend where internationally many global governments are considering implementing similar rules. So you're going to continue to hear about the CRA itself, and then efforts within Japan or India or Korea that are also thinking about implementing similar legislation. And that is, in a nutshell, what I see kind of the four big challenges that are going to come in front of us this year.
Thanks for sharing these predictions with our audience. Now, what are some of the biggest challenges or bottlenecks organizations will face when they try to adapt to these changes?
Well, I'll start with AI. There has been a huge push over the last several years, and for better or worse, it sometimes is a pure marketing sales play. But irregardless of that, organizations are considering and implementing AI within their organizations. And just like open source software, there has not been effective due diligence or rigor around the evaluation of these tools. So you'll get, if you are part of the Microsoft ecosystem, or GitHub, you get Copilot as part of those offerings. If you work in the Google environment, you get Gemini. So people are getting access to these agents and these assistants, and it's going to be a challenge for people to understand what data does this tool have access to, and what am I potentially unknowingly or unintentionally oversharing with the computer and then the other users of this ecosystem. These are just like the cloud. These are shared ecosystems where your data potentially doesn't have strong access controls, and you could have outsiders unintentionally or intentionally peek at what you're doing and exfiltrate sensitive information.
Thank you. And as we all know, challenges also create opportunities. What are some of the biggest opportunities that will arise from these challenges?
Well, and I think, again, sticking with the AI theme, I think that we're at a real inflection point. Last year, we worked with the US DARPA agency on this competition called AICC, where they had different teams using AI tools to find and rate fixes for security vulnerabilities. So I think now that a lot of the supporting tools that a developer or a commercial organization might want to leverage, they're really getting to a place of maturity and features that they are usable, and they can actually have a pretty amazing impact on the developer or an organization's life. These tools from the AICC competition had amazingly high success rates in both finding unknown vulnerabilities and then, more importantly, writing the fix to correct it. Because just finding a problem and telling somebody is not helpful, but finding a problem and then writing a fix is exponentially more helpful. So I think that we're going to see a lot of tools, and people will start to realize that there's a lot of traditional application security practices, like of fuzzing and access control and network segmentation, that these techniques are absolutely applicable in the AI space. And people just need to understand how to get the benefit out of these tools, but also to protect themselves, their customers, and their sensitive information as well.
What advice do you have for enterprises? What should they start doing now to be ready for this year?
For this year, and this will kind of tie in with the theme of the CRA. One of the key themes of the EU law is responsible software usage, doing due diligence. So I would encourage enterprises, if you're a financial institution, you're heavily regulated, so you're probably already doing a lot of these things. But if you're a retailer or a smaller shop that you provide some type of niche service, you might not have been compelled to follow some of these rules. So you need to understand whether it's an open source project or it's an open source model. You need to understand kind of the pedigree and provenance, how that software or how that tool was made, who had access to make changes, and then how are you going to integrate that with your existing practices and security controls. So I think the real theme of this year is going to be more due diligence. And the more work you do up front before you ingest a model or a package helps pay dividends down the road. You'll have less work to do, like if an auditor shows up and tries to smack you down because you did something wrong. Ideally, you've done all your homework. You've picked solid components that have supportable life cycle that help you achieve your goals.
What is going to be your, as well as the foundation's focus or priority in 2026 to help communities with some of the challenges, problems that you mentioned?
Well, we're going to continue and actually kind of accelerate our education efforts. We have a very mature education practice where we have about a half dozen classes that we provide free to the universe. So we're going to be writing additional classes to support things like the CRA. I'm in the middle of working with one of our members on a risk management class that uses the EU's ENISA risk management framework. So we're going to teach people how to be not compliant with the law, but using a technique that the legislators or the regulators will understand. So education is going to be huge. We're going to be writing some more AI classes. And then more broadly, we're going to be encouraging our members to get outside of the more traditional either cybersecurity or open source conference bubble and get out to where there are more actual practitioners, more downstream users, and help provide that information about all the amazing projects and resources that my foundation has and other foundations or efforts across the ecosystem. So again, we were really stressing the importance of education and awareness, and we're going to be intentionally setting up opportunities, whether it's a workshop, conference presentations, community days, to help evangelize and spread the word on these amazing techniques and tools.
Rob, thank you so much for joining me and sharing these predictions. And as usual, I would love to have you back on the show. And also, I would love to have you back on the show at the end of the year to check how many of those predictions turned out to be true. I did not want to put you under pressure in the beginning and to get next set of predictions, but I really appreciate your time with it. Thank you.
I would love that. And thank you very much for having us.